Bajane, it is I, Vladimir Zelensky. I come to you in this desperate hour. Yes. Slava Ukraini. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to cocaine. Slava Ukraini. My fellow Westerners, you are so stupid. You gave me $6 billion. Your Pentagon Americans gave me 6.2 billion. They overestimated the price. Slava Ukraini. You have no idea what you have gotten yourself into. Oh, yes. You do not know what I'm capable of, Putin. Yes, I know you are destroying me. You are. Yes, I know our offensive. This is why I ask you, give me money. Give it to me. So I can smoke crack with I can buy more weapons to play the killing fields. Slava Ukraini. Yes, yes. Is Zelensky here to make this announcement. Slava. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you were entertained. But there you have it. Volodymyr Zelensky telling you all you need to know. And this will be a pretty Ukraine-centric one. Oh, let us start off with this. Pentagon accounting error provides extra $6.2 billion for Ukraine military aid. Wow, are we the Italian army?
But so let me actually get on to this. I was actually following because Chris Gore is having his Star Wars on trial. And if so, anyone wants to just fast forward back a couple minutes and you'll get Zelensky. He was just on a couple minutes ago. Just fast forward back. But I was just talking with people. But if you want Zelensky more, if you want more Zelensky, leave a like, share, comment, subscribe. We can get more Zelensky. But so the Pentagon said Tuesday that it overestimated the value of weapons it had sent to Ukraine by 6.2 billion over the past 2 years, about double early estimates, resulting in a surplus that would be used for future security packages. Pentagon spokeswoman Abrina Sahi said in a detailed review of the accounting error found that the military services use replacement costs rather than the book value of equipment that was pulled from the Pentagon stock and sent to Ukraine. She said final calculations showed there was an error of 3.6 billion in the current fiscal year and 2.6 billion in the 2022 fiscal year, which ended last September 30th. So what they're getting at is that the people running the Pentagon are pretty retarded. That's what I'm getting. And that we have a bunch of retards running the Pentagon. Because, I mean, they're kind of retarded. Not even kind of, they are a bunch of I mean, I'm not sure if you can say that. And the reason why we don't have any viewers currently is because Star Wars on trial is going on. Chris Gore. Yeah, fuck you, Chris Gore, taking all my stuff. But nah, we like Chris Gore. And it wasn't taking all my views. But you know what? Chris Gore's bigger than me. He obviously deserved more success. I still don't understand how I got that. But let's continue. As a result, the department now has additional money in its coffer to use to support Ukraine as it pursues its counteroffensive against Russia. And it comes as the fiscal year is wrapping up and congressional funds begin to dwindle. And it goes on and on. But why don't we continue? It's just going to go back into the pot of money that we have allocated. Of course, the AP is all for Ukraine. They're all Slavo-Ukraini. Like, I still see Ukraine flags being flown, just to show you how stupid. Ahoy, His Highness! Ahoy! Welcome. So I still can't believe there are still people who are saying Slava Ukraini. I saw a Ukraine flag when I was driving home from work today. God, just seeing it kind of pissed me off, but that's beyond the point. So the revelation comes as Ukraine moves ahead with early stage of a counteroffensive in an effort to dislodge the Kremlin's forces from territory they've occupied since a full-scale invasion in February 2022. The counteroffensive has come up against heavily mined terrain and reinforced defensive fortifications, according to Zaluzhny. Where is Zaluzhny? We don't know where Zaluzhny is. We still don't know, according to many sources. Does anyone know where Zaluzhny is? Do you know where he is? The commander-in-chief of Ukraine's army. Meanwhile, Russia, has been bombarding the Kiev region with dozens of Shahed exploding drones, an assault that has exposed gaps in the country's air protection after almost 16 months of war. Officials said Ukrainian air defense is down. I don't believe that. 32 of the 35 drones that were launched by Russia earlier Tuesday. Do we believe that? There's still some of these websites are still committed. They are still, some of these news are so down the rabbit's hole. They still have their heads up their ass and still think Ukraine can pull something off. Apparently, Ting is pinging it. I just saw on Twitter because I wanted to pull it up. I'm trying to. Hang on, let me try and find it. Because from Jackson Hinkle. I'm trying to find out. Trying to find. So the Pentagon has used presidential drawdown authority to pull weapons, ammunition, and other equipment off the shelves so that Ukraine can get far more quickly. So that can get to Ukraine far more quickly than going through a purchase process. I'm trying to. Because I'm trying to find. Oh god. Oh my god. Jackson Hinkle is freaking hilarious. I have to show you this tweet. Based on the previous estimate, and it just goes into about estimates and stuff. Like, I'll skim through the article. I mean, Joe Biden is saying it's not about humanitarian mission to Ukraine. It's about trying to it's about the typical U.S. empire building of bring democracy. Democracy is overrated. Let me just say it clear. Ban democracy. Let's see. Don't ban voting. Get rid of democracy. It gives way to mob rule if you actually look at it. Yeah, this is there's a law going on. So privately, administration officials have warned Ukrainian officials that there's a limit to the patience of a narrowly divided Congress and the American public for the cost of a war with no clear end. The American public is already fed up. A lot of the Republicans, to their credit, are also. And this is the AP. But I've got to share this. What Jackson Hinkle. So this is apparently
with people like
about Christina, one of the ugliest people alive. Christina, like, glad someone finally the footage that the alien that landed in Nevada. Who knew that would be fluent in English? Hang on a second. There. Let there be light. Sorry, just something came up. Let me actually see. Let's get this. See if he can. So this is from Jackson Hinkle last night. And this is obviously a very heavy Ukraine beat. Yeah. But if you want,
the Piatikatki area has transferred.
So this is a village in, I forgot where in Ukraine, called Piatikaki. And it's a very small village. And the other day, the Ukrainians were the Ukrainites, the NATO people were celebrating because they had just taken it. And hang on, let me see my microphone. Better. All right, so Ukraine.
Hands 3 times over the last 24 hours. And while the New York Times and other outlets are trying to make the occasional Ukrainian holding of this town out to be a very big victory for the AFU, the fact of the matter is it is simply not. We just discussed this. This is the village of Piatikatki. Piatikatki literally translates to 5 homes, and it appears as though there's about 5 to 10 homes here, about 2 roads that go through the farming village, and it looks like just one large farm. So does it really make sense for Ukraine to suffer thousands and lose thousands of men and tanks and artillery vehicles, armored vehicles for this small farming village? Of course not. But Ukraine can't even make it through the front line of the security zone, let alone reach the first line of Russian defense fortifications until they get through the villages like this. But let's keep looking here. So Scott provided us with this breakdown from Rybar. It says, Ordokovsky area, the situation at the end of the day on June 20th, 2023. This morning, an armored group of the 128th Guards Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine entered the village of Piatikatki, which was located in the gray zone. So it's at the very, very, very front strip of the fighting. As you can see here, this is the region. It's this little sliver right here you can see. And even if they break into Piatikatki, they are still about, 5, 6, 7 kilometers from the first line of the Russian defenses in that region, okay? So they can't even break through there. Furthermore,
You heard the Ukrainians have not reached the front lines of the Russians. They're not. Ukraine's not going to win. Okay? That's pretty clear. Ukraine's going to lose this war. Ukraine's already lost.
From there, the infantry swooped in and tried to break through to Bianchi, but they again were pushed back out of Piatikatki multiple times. As a result of the ensuing battle, the offensive was stopped and the 128th Guards Brigade retreated to its original positions. Neither the armed forces of the Russian Federation nor the armed forces of Ukraine have confident control over Piatikatki. All right, so that's the news from the Ordokovsky region. We have some news as well from the Deputy Minister of the Defense of Ukraine. They said that the Russian army went on the offensive in the Kupiansk and Liman directions. In addition to that, the village of Piatikatki, they also admit, changed hands 3 times and is now in a gray zone. The AFU is desperately trying to penetrate the first positions and manages to hold on to some villages for about 4 hours at a time. Okay. The AFU, so meanwhile, the Russian army started a counter-offense and advanced 2 kilometers in the direction of Kupiansk. Okay. Now, Kupiansk is a very important region, as you know, because it lies at the heart of what the former, Russian administrative building was in the Kharkiv Oblast region. It's on the western bank of the Oskol River. And the Russians have crossed over to the Oskol River about a few weeks ago. They established a bridgehead, and they slowly but surely were making their way to Kupiansk. Kupiansk is a major hub for both sides, and whoever controls it will be a significant morale blow for the other belligerent. Okay. So a powerful battle is raging there in Kupiansk. The AFU is retreating. The Russian troops are almost on the outskirts of the city. So I reported a few days ago that they were several kilometers out. Now they are just right on the outskirts of the city. It's becoming an untenable situation, even though the Ukrainians are trying to send as many men to Kupiansk as they can and slow the Russian offensive in the region. It does not appear as though it is doing any good for the Ukrainian military. We also have some updates about Bakhmut. In the northeast of Bakhmut, attempts by the formations of the 10th Guards Rifle Brigade and the Tero Defense to break through the defenses of the Russian army at the turn of Sako and Vamzeti, Nikolevka, Yakovlevka do not stop. The armed forces carry out raids trying to penetrate the gaps between the strongholds and minefields. Now, if I was the AFU, I would just cut my losses on Bakhmut. It's like, can that saga be over yet? Can we just stop with that? It's time. It's time. The Western narrative that Ukraine is winning or this counteroffensive is going well is, in fact, beginning to collapse. We can look at that in a myriad of areas. I first want to look at it here. This is from FQ Extra. The Western Ukraine will win. Narrative collapses all across the world. Even within Ukraine, there are big doubts coming up now. We're going to go through that right now. The last time the situation got stuck, they kept the public motivated with free the leopards narrative. Then Ukraine will win, they said. But this time, the war is not stuck. This time, pictures of destroyed leopards went through the world. No advances were made in the last 3 weeks, only huge losses. They said that they were going to get back their 1991 borders and take back Crimea,
leopard
or at the
hunting
least
season
the
happened.
Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, but they haven't made it anywhere. What will they do now? They need to keep the public, us the people, entertained and motivated.
Yep.
The F-16 discussion did not...
Because if the American public, if the Western public who are still so heavily behind Ukraine, or they soon start to see the truth that Ukraine's actually losing, they're just going to turn a blind eye. They're going to be like, nah. But they have to keep the support going somehow. They have to, even though it's waning.
Pick up the same steam as the leopard thing. The offensive, as of right now, failed its objectives. They'll try further, but it's not a walk towards Melitopol. They haven't breached the first positions in 3 weeks. The West has put too much political capital into the game. What will they do? They will escalate, that's for sure. Remember, only we, the public, can stop this. That's why they spend so much effort on narratives and propaganda. Until we collectively say stop, it will continue. Or until Ukraine collapses fully and descends into chaos it'll be managed by BlackRock. Don't worry.
Or it'll be occupied by the Russians. Though I am concerned, though, farther west Russia goes, I think a nuclear false flag is likely to occur. I am dead serious. I mean, these are sick, satanic people we have in charge. They'll do anything.
Right. So German defense ministers are even beginning to speak out about the failures. The Germans are trying to hide the atrocious losses of their precious leopards in the Ukrainian counteroffensive, but they do admit the counteroffensive has not moved since the start. Same villages change hands back and forth while leopards burn. Embarrassing propaganda there from the German Defense Ministry. And in that video, they even said it reminds a lot of us of World War II. That is just...
They're getting the flashbacks. They're getting the flashbacks to losing their Panzer. We have lost the Panzers in Russia.
No positive way to spin this. Okay, at first they were waving the banner, Crimea in 3 days, Crimea in 3 days. Now they're saying, well, the frontline villages have changed hands a few times. We should give them credit for that, right? No, there's no credit to be given for that. It is very hard to watch. It's very hard to watch what's happening right now. And take a listen to this right here. Guest Judge Napolitano's show highlights this very point. This is with Daniel L. Davis, who is a foreign policy military expert who's appeared on Fox, CNN, NBC, BBC, and many others. And even he gets it. Take a listen.
I have seen some expectations prior to the launch of this with all of the equipment that they had assembled and all the training that they had gone through in the NATO, that they really expected to have punched through one or possibly more of the main defense belts of the first defensive belt of the Russian defense within 5 to 10 days. And then they thought they would be moving more to the south, and then perhaps by the end of the month be down to Melitopol down on the Azov coast. I think that was the general hope and expectation. And yet after now 14 days into this offensive, they have still yet to even reach the first belt of the Russian defense, and they haven't even made it through the security zone in most places, and they absorbed enormous casualties in both personnel and equipment. And I just don't see how this does anything except just completely chew through what this offensive capacity that Ukraine put together. It's really hard to watch.
So when you start having people who are regularly appearing on Fox, MSNBC, BBC, all these Western, mainstream media channels admitting the truth, it's probably time to cut your losses. Okay, but it's not just Americans that are admitting this. You even have the Ukrainian Minister of Defense who's getting upset now that people expected too much from the counteroffensive. This is Alexei Reznikov. again, the Ukrainian Minister of Defense saying, that he's upset with the fact that they prepared, that everyone expected too much. Okay, I mean, take a listen. The current offensive, counteroffensive, how do you assess it? He says, look, I assess it very simply. This is war. This is war. You shouldn't sit at the TV and think, wow, our guys will win now. Do something. Why are you not winning? You don't score goals and so on. That's not how it works. Not only that.
This ain't no sporting event, people. This ain't your Premier League game for all the soccer fans or in NFL, NBA, MLS. This ain't for all of the sports fans here. Ain't that?
That, I think, the reason for the too high expectations is related to the events from autumn. During autumn, I'll remind you, were two campaigns, Kherson and Kharkiv. The Kharkiv operation went very quick. Kherson, on the other hand, moved more slowly because the soil relief is completely different and the weather conditions and much more. So to expect that it all happens quickly as it was with Kharkiv is impossible, especially the front. Well, they're on and relay and different blah, blah, blah. Plus, the Russians had the opportunity to prepare. There is an incredible density of minefields, incredibly dense, he says. She asked, how many Leopards are lost? He said, so I can't tell you everything now. We have everything at the base. Everything is being repaired. A wounded Leopard will heal. Well, that's definitely not true. They don't have everything at the base. The Russians have definitely taken a good chunk of those back to their side. They're going to be parading them in front of the German embassy in Russia, I'd imagine. But I mean, how could you say that like people were too, they were expecting too much when you guys literally put out propaganda like this? This was the
God, that was a jump scare. Oh, God. I just bring this up.
Ukrainian Ministry of Defense that put out propaganda like this for the counteroffensive.
Sounds like Among Us. Like, I've never played Among Us, but do you know when you ever play Among Us and it's the
Рідна земля мати. Господь, Отець наш Небесний. Благословіть.
Like, this is higher production level in the middle of a war than most movies I've seen over the course of my entire life. And you're telling me that the people were just too excited because of their misguided notions of how war operates. So you guys put together like a multi-million-dollar PR campaign for this one counteroffensive, and you fumbled the bag. Even Podolyak is coming out and admitting the truth here. Podolyak says the West is hypocritical in prolonging the war.
Це приведе до трагедії.
This will lead to tragedies because from one hand, you give to Ukraine a tool of defense, he says, because we are in the right within the international law, which you have settled. We are in the right to defend ourselves. And from the other hand, you give the tool of attack on a sovereign Ukraine. This means that you continue the war. Okay, so, I mean, they're just at a loss for words. They don't know how to handle this massive failure. And, the real problem here is when you start to have average Ukrainians who are otherwise supportive of the Ukrainian war effort.
I already had French fries today.
They are the blooded soil types, if you will, who are coming out and now getting a bit worried. Ukrainian journalist Diana Panchenko, about the Istanbul peace treaty last year, said, I know for sure that the war could have stopped back in March. This is after Putin released the documents. No one is refuting those documents, by the way. The United States, Belarus, China, Turkey, and the United Kingdom were all guarantors for Ukraine's peace per that treaty. Not one of those nations has come out and denied the legitimacy of those peace treaty documents. She goes on to say, a person from Zelensky's inner circle told me, we just cheated the Russians in March. He boasted of this. Friends, I know all of them personally. Sociopaths control you. Sociopaths who do not understand the consequences.
Shout to
So
my
now
mom.
you have pro-Ukrainians who are coming out and saying like, yeah, they got you. This was, they were acting like, oh, we want peace, but they were backstabbing the Russians, just like the Minsk Accords. And now those of you who are suffering, are going to have.
Hang on. Look at this cheesesteak.
Have to bear the brunt for their sociopathic, not my words, hers, decision making. We also have other Ukrainian citizens and journalists speaking out. Okay, Ukrainian public realizes the failure of the counteroffensive. They are sad and devastated. The propaganda is falling apart. Listen to this. It's easy to say we have to win because you actually need to win. It's a hard, exhausting, and tiring path. Many of us, and I also thought that we just rush, but we can't rush. Exhausting, bloody.
I mean, to be fair, the Russians thought they could take Kiev within the first couple of hours, but Ukraine, to their credit, did push them back. But Ukraine got too cocky. The West got too cocky. The mistake took Putin's showing reserve for weakness, and they decide we can take him out. We gotta get Putin now. We can take one of our enemies out. The Anglo-American establishment. This whole gamble is awful.
The hardest work. Every day and night, only 100, 200 meters. 1.5 kilometers is great, you understand? That is such a jump, as in the Kharkiv region last year. In September, apparently. Will not happen in the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, I was personally expecting such a jump. I thought we'll swing a club and kick him out. The propaganda machine is beginning to fall apart for those even within Ukraine that are some of the most ardent supporters of what Zelensky is doing. The Russians are expecting this Ukrainian counteroffensive to end in weeks, but according to some reports I've seen today, the operations of the Ukrainian counteroffensive are beginning to become halted. I don't know if this is at the direction of Ukrainian authorities. I don't know if this is because there are troops that are simply saying, well, we see all of our friends dying every time they get sent to a new village, a new farming village with like 5 homes to retake. So we're not going to fight anymore. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Even Elon Musk is coming out. I mean, Elon Musk provided Starlink to the Ukrainian military. And he's come out and said it's becoming clear that the Ukrainian counteroffensive is failing to achieve any of its originally stated objectives. Okay, Washington's bet that Kiev would be able to roll back Russian territorial gains, cut the land bridge to Crimea, and make it engage in negotiations had not paid off, he added. On the contrary, a stalemate is more likely, or even that Russia will take more territory and win the war. Oh, finally, some logic, some reason, some rationality. Yeah, if you are pro-Ukraine, the answer right now should be cut your losses, negotiate for whatever you can, and bring it into this, because it's only going to go in one direction from here, as it's gone throughout the entirety of this war. The Russian MOD has come out and said Ukraine has lost hundreds of men in their failed assaults, and that's just over the past couple days. Hundreds of men. This is just a fact. It's just a fact of the matter. It is not going well for the Ukrainians. Here's the startling truth I mentioned at the beginning of this video: the fact that men are now no longer earlier in the fighting, Bakhmut, they would tell the Ukrainian soldiers, you got to fight to your death. If you don't fight to your death, we're gonna do what needs to be done. We're gonna shoot you in the back or something like that. And I've seen countless videos of that. It's very sad, and that's a principle of war. Either side, really. If you are in a make or break situation, you refuse to fight. You refuse to, follow the command of your.
Watch Enemy at the Gate. There's a scene were making the charge, and based off of what really happened, although I've heard that the whole myth about Russian soldiers being sent in without rifle is actually kind of false. In fact, it would usually be sent in with rifles, but the rifles didn't have ammo, so they would scramble to get the ammo.
Or superior, that's treason. You're probably going to be dealt with in one way or another, however your superior wants to deal with you. And that's an unfortunate reality of war. But for Ukraine, the unfortunate reality is that this is the only option, because there is no option to win or to successfully take a territory permanently. Okay. All of the gains will be reversed eventually. Russia will take Kharkov. They're already about to take Kupiansk, which is going to be a big blow to the Kharkov counteroffensive that took place last August or whenever. And eventually they will take back Kherson, Nikolaev, and Odessa as well. But now, the difference now is that you have such a consensus amongst the men that are fighting in these companies and in these platoons that they are all getting together and saying, well, I don't want to fight. You want to fight? You want to go in? You want to fight? No, I don't want to fight either. Okay, let's all surrender to the Russians. I've covered so many videos over the past 2 weeks of this counteroffensive where it's like one platoon surrenders with like 2 tanks. Another platoon has surrendered. Take a look at this. This is over the past 2 days, and mainly in Piatikatki, which is literally translates to 5 homes. It's a small farming village with like 5 to 15 homes, something like that. More POWs around Piatikatki. There's a huge wave of this taking place. So you have Ukrainians that are surrendering en masse there. Here's another story. I just went towards the Russian positions. They made 2 warning shots in the air. I said, I'm with you. Don't worry. They met and brought me to their commander. Simple, without aggressions. Food and attitude is good. They gave me slippers. This is from another Ukrainian POW who surrendered. Here's some more. Captured 31 brigades of the strategic.
I'll just have to say the Ukrainian POWs are being even much better than German POWs were treated by the USSR during World War II, or Allied POWs were captured by the Japanese. I'm just saying.
Strategic Reserve, one of the brigades that was specially trained for the counteroffensive. Most of the soldiers were trained abroad. These brigades were equipped with foreign weapons and military equipment. So these were the guys who were supposed to be dealing with Leopards, the foreign tanks, foreign HIMARS systems, M777 howitzers, all these sorts of things, right? These are the specially equipped and trained men. They also surrendered. Here's another one. And this is postally equipped and trained men.
Captured 31 brigades of the Strategic Reserve. 31?
And they also surrendered. Here's another one. And this is posted by OSINT Defender, pro-Ukrainian account. An assault by the 47th Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian ground forces on the town of Ropotnoye along the Orikhiv front line in the Zaporozhye region was said to have been crushed by Russian forces utilizing artillery and helicopters earlier today, with Ukrainian losses claimed to be upwards of 50 soldiers, 2 tanks, and 2 APC, while a handful of other soldiers and officers were captured as prisoners of war. And here's one more. Ukrainian POW here fighting in the counteroffensive tells the Russians only 150 out of 500 survived. I think that's what they mean to say here. Not 500 out of 150. 150 out of 500 survived, which is a huge blow to any brigade or fighting units that is trying to take on the Russians. You know, it's bad when even the Telegraph, one of the most pro-Ukraine UK publications, is coming out and admitting the truth. Russian attack helicopters gain upper hand on the key southern front. Okay, so the
I think that's cap with a KA-52 helicopter. Can we just get a moment to appreciate
damage? We discussed that with Scott from Prague. Telegraph and troops to Ukraine forces literally settled it is necessary off dual the KA and Southern Front. Okay, so
Hey, that's a really
KA and MI, what are they? KA and MI8 or whatever they called the helicopters are doing a
MI-28.
lot of damage. We discussed that with Scott from Calibrated. Kiev has offered their explanation for a lack.
I think also the MI-35 maybe, which I think are more upgrade version of the MI-24 multi-role helicopters, well, gunships, which are still used by some countries. They can be used as a gunship, so which is another term for an attack helicopter and a troop transport helicopter.
Lack of battlefield progress in talking with the Telegraph, right?
Telegraph.
No, writing on Telegram, my bad. They said it's quite difficult for Ukrainian troops to advance because Moscow is fully committed to stopping Kiev's long-anticipated campaign. Ukraine's troops must prepare for the fact that it will be a tough duel. Yeah, no shit.
They're ready for the Russian counteroffensive. You ain't ready, Ukraine. Damn,
Shit. The official went on to argue that it is necessary to measure the result of the work of the defense forces only by settlements captured and kilometers traveled. Well, I mean, again, literally like town settlements of 5 houses. This is nothing to be proud of, okay, when you're losing thousands of men. Now they're saying Russia has launched an active offensive in the Kharkov region, which is also true. How are they going to deal with?
Maybe they can find Gonzalo Lira. Maybe hopefully he's still alive. I mean, no one's heard from him in weeks.
That NATO chief comments on Russia countering the Ukrainian offensive. Kiev's troops are facing a well-prepared Russian defense, Jens Stoltenberg has said, promising more equipment for Ukraine.
More equipment for Ukraine that'll end up in Russian hands.
And the Russians have also launched an offensive in the Lugansk region. This is according to Bild. Russian troops are advancing from near Kremenaya to Liman and from near Svatovo to Kupiansk. To be honest, few people expected this because it was believed that the Russians were under pressure in the south, moved their reserves there, and did not use them for another offensive. Deputy Minister of the Defense, Malyar, said yesterday that Russia is trying to seize the initiative on the Eastern Front, having pulled up its forces, is actively advancing in the Liman and Kupiansk direction. This is going to be a complete shit show for Ukraine. And to finalize my comments on the counteroffensive, here are some words from Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. He says, if NATO, through the mouth of Stoltenberg, once again declares that they are against the freezing, as they say, of the conflict in Ukraine, then it means they want to fight. Well, let them fight. We are ready for that. We understood a long time ago the goals of NATO and the situation around Ukraine. Okay? So there you have it. The counteroffensive has reached day 16. Well, day 17 now as I record this. It's 8:53 on June 20th, Los Angeles time. And it appears as though situations are halting, probably for a myriad of reasons. Cannot break through the front security zone or reach the Russian front line of defense fortifications. They've lost thousands of men. They've lost countless tanks, armored vehicles, aircraft, vehicles, and anti-mine tanks. They've lost countless men to surrender. It's platoon after platoon after platoon surrendering. They have now active offensives that they're going to have to counter or defend against, not just in Kupiansk, which we've been seeing accumulate, but also in the Liman region. And it's just they have nothing. They have nothing. This is a suicide mission, as I've said from the start. I did not think it was going to go as poorly as it has gone. It has overwhelmed me how absolutely terrible this counteroffensive has gone. And I would have to guess that the only reason why this is happening is because NATO generals and commanders are forcing this to take place, not because anyone in Ukraine thought that it was a legitimate or sensible path for their military to go down. All right.
It's a dumb move.
Thank you all for tuning in. We got a lot more news.
So what Jackson's saying, Ukraine has completely, this is a complete disaster. Highway Zelensky was removed from the public eye. If I was a betting man, I bet a lot of money that Zelensky is in some dungeon with Gonzalo Lira, probably in Kiev. And you got news about the submarine, which I'm not going to cover right now. I'll probably cover tomorrow. More news about the submarine. This was just about the Ukraine. We still got a lot more to cover. Well, not a lot, but we're still going to talk about the Ukraine. Because it's a and you actually have some news. So apparently, the Ministry of Defense of Belarus announced a mobilization exercise from the 21st to 30th of June 2023 in the Minsk region. During the exercise, plan to carry out action to deploy infrastructure facilities, track military personnel, and automotive equipment, including the rest of military commissariats, the report says. So, things are going on with Belarus as well. Apparently, Russians are continuing to bombard Ukraine. Germany has sent over another package of military aid to Ukraine that includes 1,155 millimeter artillery ammunition, 150 millimeter precision guided munitions. Sorry. So, and it goes on here. If you want to, it's Sprinter on Twitter. Here, Sprinter 99880. Follow him. So apparently there's the Russian bombardment. And it's also saying that the New York Times, apparently the I remember hearing about this on Jackson Hinkle. Apparently, the Ukrainians are losing so many men. They have that in places like Lviv, they have to dig up old graves, move those bodies out, and put for the new one for the soldiers that are dying. So crazy. It's in that same Jackson Hinkle video, his live stream from yesterday. He actually talks about that. And there's so much going on. That's what have the hiccups. God, this is embarrassing. Oh, there's something funny. Check it out. Ukrainian T-72 B3 tank retreated so fast that I caught up with the American MAXX Pro. My God. Man, was a woman driving? Nah. Good. And actually, tomorrow is the anniversary of the start of Operation Barbarossa. Oh, if there's anything else, and tomorrow I plan on actually, before the stream, holding a memorial to those who died. Heck, I might even try and might come in form tomorrow. Stuff about Adam Schiff. Okay. A lot of stuff going on. I probably should have covered a lot more, but this Russia-Ukraine stuff is pretty important as well. And I might just make on Friday. I plan on having a bunch of on tomorrow night. I plan on making a bunch of videos to then upload Friday morning because I probably won't be able to go stream. I'll probably be doing stuff. I'm definitely not going to be streaming, so I'll try and make videos in exchange to give you something else. Mm. In Paris, this is crazy. Immediately after so this is photos from after the explosion. There's an explosion in Paris. That looks like Things are getting crazy. Things are just heating up. So apparently they formally voted to censure Adam Schiff now. They finally did it. Adam Schiff has been censured. Which means... Nah. But... Alright, so this is from... But like... Gosh. So many ads. Come on. I thought you Russians were better. Guess you need to fund it somehow. Alright. So finally they did it. The House of Representatives. So the House of Representatives voted to formally censure Representative Adam Schiff over his claims regarding alleged collusion between former U.S. President Donald Trump and Russia and his Israel as head of the House Intelligence Committee. House lawmakers passed the resolution along party lines on Wednesday and vote of 213 to 209 with 6 members voting present. Adam Schiff abuses his position as chair of the House Intelligence Committee to lie and lead the America through a national nightmare with a fake Russia collusion area of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy saying, well, Kevin McCarthy, he just says stuff to try and win points and respect from the American people. Even if Kevin McCarthy says something that you agree with, do not listen to him. He's a politician at the end of the day. He's a typical establishment politician who's captured MCG, although maybe she was never even with America first. Shifty Schiff. So Schiff abused his trust by alleging he had evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia that, as subsequent probes have released, never existed. Schiff spread false accusations for years and abused his privileges with access to classified information, the resolution said. Moreover, the resolution accused Schiff of misleading the American people and bringing disrepute upon the House of Representatives. The resolution censures Schiff and directs the House Ethics Committee to conduct an investigation into Schiff's actions. So that is really significant, to be honest. Though Schiff deserves it. Shift off. But I'm also going to head out. Play a little Hearts of Iron. Maybe. But like, share, comment, subscribe. Yeah, I will see you later. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.